Hello there and welcome to Homo Politicus. This is Enterprise Television. Kingsley Bass is my name. We turn attention today on the program to a very disturbing story out of the world of politics and governance in Nigeria. And that's because the State Security Services has initiated legal action against Professor Pat Utomi, a former presidential candidate, of allegations of forming a shadow government in defiance of Nigeria's constitutional framework. Filed at the Federal High Court in Abuja. The suit accuses Pat Utomi of attempting to usurp President Bola Tinubu's executive authority by establishing an alternative. Let me take that again, sorry. That part again, go scroll, yeah. No, from that, the beginning of the sentence, filed. Filed at the Federal High Court in Abuja, the suit accusing Pat Utomi of attempting to usurp the powers, the executive authority of President Bola Tinubu by establishing an alternative governance structure that operates without legal recognition. Now, according to the State Security Services, this move undermines national security and threatens the constitutional order. Utomi's so-called shadow cabinet publicly positions itself as a rival to the democratically elected government. And that's the focus today on the program. Kingsley Bass is my name. Welcome to the show. I'm joined this very beautiful day by a political commentator and, of course, public, well, if you like, call him a communications expert. I'm talking about Dr. Jide Johnson. He joins me virtually today. Many thanks for joining me, Dr. Jide Johnson.
Thank you for having me, Kingsley. Yeah. Good day to our viewers all over the world.
Appreciate your joining the conversation. So let's get down to this particular conversation. It's generated several, thoughts from various observers and stakeholders in the country. But from your point of view, to what extent does the formation of a shadow cabinet constitute a legal or constitutional violation in Nigeria's democratic framework?
First and foremost, the basic tenets of democracy is that majority will form the government. The party that wins majority of the seats or that wins majority of the votes will form the government, and those that are losing the election automatically forms the opposition. So for a democracy that is based on plurality of votes, the role of opposition is central to any democratic society. And one of the basic axioms of democratic society is that majority will have their way, minority will have their say, and the right to hear their views, to project alternative viewpoints, and to give representation to their ideology is one of the basic constitutional guarantees of the opposition in partisan democratic system of government, which is what we do in Nigeria. Unfortunately, we have seen the emergence of autocratic and authoritarian states, whereby the institution of the states have assumed roles that is not given to them by the Constitution. For me, I think what DSS is trying to do is an overreach. It's an executive overreach, and they are going beyond the core mandate of protecting and providing safeguards for the lives and property of Nigerians and governmental institutions that we have in the country. What DSS is doing should have been something which probably APC, the ruling party, should do, or any other interested member of the ruling party to do. DSS should not forget that they are not the DSS of the APC. They are the DSS, they are the Department of State of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. As such, they should not get themselves involved in partisan, they should not get themselves involved in partisan politics. What has Professor Utomi, what has he done that has not been done before? He called for the formation of a shadow government. The shadow government does not have any power. There's no constitutional provisions for shadow government, except that the shadow government will just offer an alternative viewpoint, because the opposition parties which we have are no longer in existence. Virtually every member of the opposition that we have in Nigeria has moved to the APC. And as such, what Professor Utomi is trying to do is to create a reawakening of what should be the role of the opposition in the democratic project that we call Nigeria. And that does not call for the DSS filing a court case on behalf of who? Of the president or the APC on behalf of the Nigerians.
I suppose they've done this, I suppose, going by, the expressions in the suit filed at the Federal High Court in Abuja. I suppose by that they've expressed that this move by Professor Utomi and his a team of shadow government, that this constitutes or that undermines national security, and that's why they have made this particular move, that the establishment of an alternative governance structure operates without legal recognition. But with what you've said, and some persons have said, oh well, maybe the state security services have some justification to do that. But let's dive deeper into this. Do you think the expression of alternative political visions or government critiques really by the likes of Professor Utomi, like you said, not many opposition voices are heard these days. Do you think this can be reasonably interpreted as a threat to national security as mentioned by the state security services?
You see, as far as I'm concerned, what do you take the colloquium that the president, when he was still a private citizen and the leader of the APC and one of the foremost leaders of the opposition, while he was still in ACN and AC, the annual lecture that he has on his birthday, what would you call that? What can that be interpreted to? That annual lecture, the colloquium that the president usually had on his birthday, while giving alternative viewpoints to the policies and programs of the PDP administration.
And that was done annually.
When PDP was in power, and when Muhammad Buhari was in government, it was giving an alternative viewpoint to the current policies of the Muhammad Buhari's administration. So as far as I'm concerned, there's nowhere in the book, in the Constitution of Nigeria, that says Nigerians cannot hear their view. The right to petition your government is one of the fundamental basic tenets of democratic governance. You should not forget that we are not running a dictatorial government. We are not running an authoritarian government. We are practicing democracy. And the rights of the opposition to ventilate the alternative viewpoint, to publicize their own viewpoint, to offer alternative to what the ruling party is doing is the basic element of democratic society. So what DSS is doing is unconstitutional, is illegal, and should be declared null and void by the courts. Well, I love the way they've done to approach the courts. Let the courts determine that. And one of the ways in which we strengthen the democratic structure and foundation is taking this matter and this issue to courts. Let the court rule on the matter. And let the court rule that Nigerians cannot form political associations or political parties that will offer opposition to the existing power structure in government. So let the court rules on that. As far as the issue is concerned, the DSS can have their own point of view. Those of us that are saying that the DSS action is illegal in our own estimation, until the court rules on that particular matter, we don't know who is right, we don't know who is wrong. We are just talking about what should be the norm of any democratic society.
Dr.
The norm of any and the norm of any democratic society is that a majority will have their way, minority will have their say.
Dr. Jide,
the president, while he was in the opposition, had a lot of say concerning many policies that he was against as a private citizen and as the leader of the opposition party, whether as in APC or in ACN or in AC. And as such, we don't expect someone...
Yes. I was also going to say that, and typical of many Nigerians, you know, they keep digging those tweets made by the president since 2015. In fact, pre-2015, 2012, 2013, especially in the heat of attacks by Boko Haram across the northeastern part of the country. But because of time, let's move very quickly. I'll just mention at this time quickly that Professor Pat Utomi has revealed that he's gotten so much, you know, support in terms of this suit filed against him by the State Security Services, that some 500 lawyers have been mobilized to defend him regarding this suit. But again, because of time, Dr. Jide Johnson, how should democratic societies balance the right, you know, to political organization with the need to protect constitutional authority? Because, I mean, looking at this again from the point of view of the State Security Services, they would say, oh, well, they are trying to make sure that there are no groups or individuals rising against democratically elected governance or governments in place, constitutionally, you know, established governments in place. And then, you know, some persons will say to you too, well, while it is your job to protect that, as you've said, do not suppress dissenting voices. But again, the question then is, how should democratic societies balance this? The right to political organization as well as the need to protect constitutional authority. How can that be balanced?
You call the agency the Department of State Security. Is the security of the state. And the security of the state has nothing to do with the ruling party alone. The security of the state has to do with the opposition party as well. It has to do with the security of every Nigerian, whether they agree or disagree with the president. And the beauty of democracy is that it allows for dissenting and consenting voice to exist in the free marketplace of ideas in the public square. If you have any idea, you are permitted to bring that idea in the free marketplace of idea in the public square. And then people in the public square can determine whether they share your idea. If majority share your idea, you have the right to control government resources and its power. And if you are in the minority, you are meant to just have your alternative viewpoints being given platform to share your views with respect to what you think the government is doing right and what you think the government is doing wrong. How do institutions of the states need to come in? You see, we have seen the rise of authoritarian states. And what do I mean by that? Authoritarian state in the sense that when institutions of the states that are meant to serve the interest of the public are being used to serve the interests of those in authority. Authoritarian state has nothing to do with whether you have democratic institutions or you have undemocratic institutions, like you have in Mali, like you have in Burkina Faso, like you have what. An authoritarian state has to do with when institutions of the states are being used to protect and preserve the interests of those in authority. And that's when you have authoritarian state. When for you to get anything done, it is those that have the instrumentality of the authority of the states that get things done for you. Like I said earlier, this particular issue that DSS raised, it shouldn't come from DSS. You have the APC at the party platform. You have the people in government, political appointees that will have gone on behalf of the government, and then they could have done what they are supposed to do. Something happened in the United States of America yesterday. Now, the former director of the CIA shared a crypted message on his social media handle. He was not summarily arrested. We saw different agencies of government acting different, that the jurisdiction does not lie with FBI. FBI in the United States of America is what we call DSS in Nigeria. Said the jurisdiction lies with the Secret Service and that they will cooperate with the Secret Service. The matter will be investigated and then to be done. But when that issue happened, I just situated with it happening in Nigeria, and I'm sure I can imagine the number of police, DSS, and what have you that will have knocked at the door of that person that posted the encrypted message. Now, that's the difference between a state whereby the institution of the state are representing the state and not those in authority. The reverse is the case in our own client. The DSS is not meant to protect the president. The DSS is meant to protect every Nigerian. The police is not meant to protect those in authority. The police is meant to protect. That's why it's called the Nigerian Police Force. It's not called the Nigerian Presidency Force. It's not called the Nigerian Governor's Force. It's not called the Nigerian Judiciary Force. It's not called the Nigerian Legislative Force. That's why the Department of State Security is not called the Department of Presidency or Department of Presidency Security. It is called the Department of State Security. So we should have all understanding of all of these elements and educate those that are given the responsibility of being the custodian of the institution of the state, and for them to not mix it up to be the institution of those in authority.
And we've seen this happen, for the longest. Government, that's administration after administration. This happens, where institutions of government are used, in some way to defend administrations, if that's in that sense. But as we close, Dr. Jide Johnson, do you think this legal response by the state security services to Pat Utomi's shadow cabinet, do you think it reflects really the broader tensions between civil society actors and state power in Nigeria?
Well, until the court rules, we don't know whether it's legal or it's illegal. We just assume. However, we can say that for a fact, there's a palpable tension with respect to authoritarian rule and its attempt by its various agencies to suppress dissent and to suppress opposing view to the established order. And that is antithetical to democratic principles and norms. Majority will have their way, minority will have their say. For democracy to thrive, there must be a dissenting view. And there's a saying in my local dialect, which I close with this: all of us cannot sleep and put our head in one direction. What do? It means that there will always be people that will have a dissenting view. But in the free market, democracy is based on the principle of capitalism, which is free marketplace of ideas. And the winning ideas is the one that has control over state resources and control over the levers of power. So in the public sphere, everybody has a right to ventilate his views, to ventilate his opinion, without infringing on the rights, privileges of others. And that's the beauty of democracy. And if we call ourselves a democratic society, the Department of State Security does not have any right to arrest anybody on behalf of those in power, on behalf of those that are in government, because the ultimate power comes from the people, and the people must be given the opportunity to have access to different and divergent views with respect to how the society should be governed and should be controlled. What cannot happen is that once those that have won the election have control over the levers of power, those that are in opposition can only express their alternate view to what those that are in government are doing. And you can't stop them from doing that. That's their fundamental, basic right when it comes to what partisan democracy is all about. And then we don't operate a dictatorial or authoritarian system. We operate a democracy, and it is partisan democracy. Nigeria is not a one-party state. It's a multi-party system that we practice. And those that came up with the multi-party system know that there must be a motivated opinions with respect to how things should be done in the society.
Well, I suppose that was going to be my last question, but you just mentioned this multi-party system, this thought about, you know, the one-party state. With the defections we've seen, our several persons still defecting. As a matter of fact, I was just seeing the number of senators, lawmakers, not just senators, but members of the House of Reps who have moved to the governing party at the center, that's the All Progressives Congress. Do you think, as many have voiced this past few months, that we're moving gradually towards a one-party state?
Well, it's just a matter of time that ship will capsize. Wait for the electoral season to start, the election season to start. Now, when you have a car, and that car can only take 50 people. For example, the car to the National Assembly, to the House of Rep, is 360. That car can only take 360.
Yeah.
360 passenger. The one to the Senate can only take 109 passenger. The one to the presidency can only take 2 passenger. And then you have a big ship, which is the APC. And in that ship, there are compartments that I've taught. For the presidency is 2. For the Senate, it is 109. For the House of Rep, it is 360. For governors, it is, I think we are doing 30 during the 2027 election. There are about 6 off cycle. And then in that compartment, when it gets to 2026, you now have, for the 360, you have close to 900 people just looking for that 360 seat. And then you have close to 300 just looking for 109 seat. And then, okay, let's say that the captain of the ship, they are not competing with the captain of the ship. And if they are not competing with the captain of the ship, at least they might be complaining with this, with the co-captain, with the vice captain. So don't lose your head over this game. We have seen this game before in 2003. We have seen it before in 2007. We have seen it before in 2011. We have seen it before in 2015. We've seen it before in 2019. Don't worry your head. When the parties start doing their primaries, you will not have one party state. Because what works with the political class is enlightening self-interest. They are interested in seeking election, winning and controlling the levers of power. When they can't achieve that in a particular platform, they go to another platform. I'm telling you, those that will lose APC primaries are the ones in 2027, are the ones that will populate the opposition party that will contest the election with APC in 2027. Except you are not a student of history and you are not a student of political science.
Well, we'll just leave that there. Some political history education there, if you like. Of course, it's safe to say that Dr. Jide Johnson, my guest today, is a good student of history and indeed political sciences. He's also a communication expert and political commentator. I'd like to thank you so much for being a part of the show today and indeed shedding light on this subject matter, Dr. Jide Johnson.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate
that. Well, that's the show today. We continue to follow this matter. As mentioned, Professor Pat Utomi has said that he's gotten so much support, some legal support with some 500 legal practitioners ready to defend him against the state security services in this suit filed at the Federal High Court. We see how that goes. That's the Federal High Court in Abuja. We'll see how things go. Stop by the comment section. Let me know what you think, what you make of this conversation, and indeed this suit filed by the state security services against Professor Pat Utomi. Until next time on Homo Politicals, make sure you're safe and never stop praying and indeed working towards the development of Nigeria. We plead, continuously that you don't stop and you don't give up on Nigeria. Well, Kingsley Bass is my name. Until next time, may God continue to bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Bye for now.